एवरीबडी आप म्यूट कर लीजिए. नमस्ते बालाजी. Welcome everybody. Please mute yourselves. Yes, so let's start the class. We'll start with the invocation. Today only I will do it. आप सब पढ़ते रहिएगा and more importantly बस सुनते रहिएगा. Some of you may already be knowing it, but once we do the meaning, then I will ask one of you to repeat after me and slowly we will learn it. But today I will still do it myself. आप मन में invoke the highest that you are associated with, and as we said last time, the invocation is got twofold purposes. For a very serious student desiring knowledge and knowledge desiring it for liberation, it is very essential to invoke, we call it grace. Anugraha is the right word. Anugraha of unknown things of our own past stumbling up and preventing our fresh pursuits. So this invocation is twofold in the sense we have been engaged in a daily activity life so far. We try our best now to switch it off completely. It's a mental discipline. And the more one takes it, the better it is. The benefits are different. So trying to focus entirely on the 1 hour that we have for this subject, for which Shanti Patha is a beautiful means, very gradually allowing our minds to slip away from its preoccupation and tune into something which it is going to be always fresh to hear. However many times we may have known it before, there will still be some nectar that we can derive out of this because this knowledge pertains to that which is infinite. So it helps to always revisit it also if one knows, but definitely for those who don't know it, keeping entire focus so that we can absorb it the most, and invoking the grace. So I will do the invocation. Everybody in your own minds at the moment, just flow with it. Listen to it. Be prayerful. सदाशिवसमारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता वन्दे परम्परा। सहना सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः। We can all see the screen. Just to quickly revise from last class, we started by saying knowledge is Ved. Ved is knowledge. If we don't understand this clearly in the beginning, we expect that from Ved we will get knowledge. Like we get from a textbook. We think textbook and knowledge are two different things. But textbook is knowledge. You want to learn physics? Physics textbook helps to learn physics. So the knowledge therein is actually what the book is all about. So what is Ved really speaking? Ved is knowledge. This knowledge, in the Vedic view of life, has taken the human span as its base. And at every stage of a human life, it elaborates, describes, gives that information that is relevant to adopt in that stage of one's human life. We all know human beings are conditioned beings. We become different from other species because there is a process of conditioning that is available to us. That process of conditioning is actually a process of learning. We have the choice to learn, and by learning, we actually condition ourselves. A. B. That learning also helps us to control our own base nature, which is common with all other species, the animal nature in us. We have an animal nature by default. That's why we see gradations of human beings. And that is why we see that humankind pays a lot of emphasis on education. Because education, learning is the process with which we manage the base instincts in us and direct them, learn a conditioned behavior. This education does, knowledge does. What we are seeing here in Ved is that they had a view of life, human life, knowing that human life has a free capacity to learn fastest than any other being. They wanted the optimal use. It expresses the optimal use of a human birth, our birth. My birth, if I have to optimize its utility, then what would it be, is my question. Who will give me the answer to that? Is just being born and then growing up playfully and then getting to youth, having a few crushes here, or just having a few outings here, having a few relations here, and then having a householder's life, having children, then getting involved in their life, and then coming to a retirement stage, and then looking for uh, etc. I don't need to elaborate and spend time on that. Is this going to be the optimal use of my life? If I have a question, then who will give me that answer which is definite? Ved defines that answer. What is the optimal use of your life? So to do that, it also introduced methods in which you could use the learning to condition yourself in a way that you could optimize this life. And what is the optimal most? He said the optimal most in a human life is you can seek your liberation. A big word, but we will talk about it in time. That is the optimal view of a Veda. In other words, Ved sees every human being with a potential to utilize the life to the manner that the life can be liberated within that time, within that lifespan. To do that was the 4 sections we saw last time. According to the 4 stages of a human life, Samhita portion dealt with the childhood stage, where most of it was hymns in praise of deities, which was more in the sense of memorization. From there it went to Brahmana portion. In Brahmana portion, the emphasis, as the person keeps learning, it takes a few years to learn all these things. By then you are now ready to explore life. Your inner desires have started fructifying themselves to seek fruition, but you must seek fruition in a way that you can optimize your life. To do all that was this process of Brahmana, which was educating man on dharmas while you start an adult life. How to keep yourself within the boundaries of dharma, background being that you want to optimize your life, so the dissipations should be reduced to the minimum. How do you handle your desires? How do you go about fulfilling yourself for the immediate happiness, even while you seek your final liberation? How do you balance this within yourself? So Samhita brought you to Brahmana, and by the time you are in a Brahmana stage, a householder's life, we all know about 2 decades go away very, very easily by the time your children have started growing up and have become adults, and now you are on the background in their life. By that stage, your life has moved into a retirement stage, and in this retirement stage, that's the stage of Aranyaka, which means seek reduction of your involvement in worldly activities. Seek reduction from there. This is a very contrasting view to today's life, where you say till the very last moment, man must be active, man must be full of life, and you can be 60 but be 16 at your heart. Now these are all very modern concepts, beautiful of course, because of medicine our lifespans have increased, but for the inner development of a person, you also need time for absorption of the truths of life. Those truths of life, by the time you have done your household duties and your children are ready to take on their independent lives, Ved advised man to start retiring his mind from overactivity in the world. By that, overactivity means now start dedicating some interest and time while you still have health left with you. Start doing what is relevant in your coming leftover time. And as we will see today a little more on Ved, how Ved views life is not just this life. So whatever you do now has a carry forward also. So you have to make certain investments, like you do your health insurance at an early age. You also do your spiritual insurance, but you have to spend some time for it within a life. So Ved saw for a generalized time. It had exceptions. This is a generalized model that generally a person will go through these life cycles. So in Aranyaka stage, he started the Shravanam of Vedantic truths, and along with it started doing upasanas, which means mentally start bringing the mind into a more focused nature of subtle aspects of life with the help of deities, worships to deities. This would bring the mind away from the worldly preoccupations of children and grandchildren and work and a lot of other things that time consumes and mind gets consumed. This meditative process would slowly bring mind to some sort of a detachment and make it available for its further pursuit. And then the last stage, as I said, just when you have started, your mind is now focused, it's detached from all frivolous things of life, and you're closer to your old age. Definitely everybody has death facing on them, and everyone wants to know whether we accept it or not. Everyone wants to know. There is a level of insecurity and attachment at that time. What really did life go all about? What was life all about? Is this the end? What is death? What was God? Did I just waste away the life, or did I get something out of the life? Did I spend it the way I wanted it? Could I have done something else? A lot of things are there at that time. Bodies have become nimble. They are not anymore supportive of a lot of dynamism. Therefore, at that stage, if an individual has gone through this process, finds that the mind has become deeply contemplative. Contemplative means it holds the topic of the truth for a long period of time in the mind without getting distracted. That stage was the stage when all that you heard in the earlier stages, maybe even starting from Brahmana, while you are a householder, you could have heard Vedanta. While you have heard all this, you reach this stage here where now my mind can be contemplative. An entire subject, fourth part of the Veda, which is the Upanishad, which is only knowledge and knowledge about the truth. That knowledge, now in your own mind, you are beginning to reflect. That knowledge is called Vedanta, Jnanakand, Atma Brahma Vidya, Jnana, Atma Gyan, Brahma Gyan. These are all synonyms. And just as a reminder, the Samhita, Brahmana and the Aranyaka portion together is called Karmakand, and Aranyaka portion is called Upasana Kand, and sometimes only Karmakand and Jnanakand, mostly in Vedanta only these two terms get used, but the student understands that in Karmakand, Upasana Kand is added. Now we go a little more further into what really is knowledge. Knowledge per se. What is knowledge? For this one I'm calling as Laukika knowledge, Laukika Jnana, Alaukika Jnana. This Alaukika Jnana is Ved. Laukika Jnana is all the knowledge that we acquire in the world. What is the similarity and the dissimilarity between this? Because remember we said Ved is knowledge. To take it as a book of religion is incorrect. Ved is knowledge, period. Now, there is nothing else related in it. That knowledge, Ved, what Ved will give you, and all the knowledge that you take in the world in the form of, right from today's model of education, from 3 and 4 years, from preschool years till your double PhDs, you are only acquiring knowledge. What is the difference between these two knowledges that Ved gives and all this knowledge that you acquire in life? First, I will take only the Laukika Gyan, the knowledge that we acquire from 3 years up to 30 years sometimes. All that life is spent in just gaining knowledge. What is the primary tool of that knowledge? The primary method in which you get that knowledge? That primary method is that it is a sense interaction. It is a sense interaction means entire knowledge is based on a sense contact, which means your eyes have to see color and form. If your eyes are not revealing color and form, you don't have knowledge of color and form. Without the eye as a tool, instrument, आंख आपकी एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट है. जो आंख आपको दिखा रही है, आपको उसी का ज्ञान हो सकता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ रंग और रूप. आंखों से आपको शब्द सुनने का, म्यूजिक का ज्ञान नहीं हो सकता. आंखों से आपको सिर्फ रंग का ज्ञान होगा और रूप का ज्ञान होगा. So if I keep a green apple and a red apple and I just place it in front of you and I blindfold you, you can feel it, and because you feel it, you can say it is this shape. You can smell it and you can say it is apple, but you cannot say it is green or red. To say it is green or red apple, to be precise in your knowledge, you need all your senses, the engagement of all your senses. What are the five senses? There are five senses. What are the five senses? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch. So 5. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and touch. 5. These 5 become your primary tool to gain any knowledge. This knowledge means, how does it give you? It gives you information. If there is absolutely a new word, okay, the South Indians may know this, but the North Indians may not know. I can't think of any new word otherwise. Obuttu. Obuttu. What will, if you don't already know about this word, what will you gather knowledge of this? Obuttu. Those who have heard it for the first time, what do you know about this word? You will say, Obuttu. Can be anything. Now, once you have heard it, your sense has got involved. You've heard the word. That means some information has gone in. Now starts the process of observation. The second process of gaining knowledge will be, you start observing what you have gained. Your senses have brought information to you. Senses will bring information. You start observing the information and you start gathering data about this information. As you start gathering data, again the senses are getting involved. This becomes information, process of information, data collection. This data collection already brings you the first level of knowledge. That means by the time you have understood Obuttu, heard it, and by the time you have now say, I know what Obuttu is, you would have, thanks to Google, now you would have known that it's a dish, a sweet dish, like a chapati, etc., etc., etc. And now you have gathered your data, and now what will you say? You will say, I know. Next time you hear the word Obuttu, I am not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but pardon me if it's not right, but Obuttu would now mean a sweet dish. This sweet dish has become of information. But do we leave it at that? Human capacity of learning is very, very intricate. This information doesn't get left at that. It gets mixed with the other informations that we already have. That means I have a lot of other information of other kinds of regional dishes, and this kind of starts the process of contrast. Inference begins to draw out of our information to the extent we have the capacity to think. This is not necessary that everybody will reach this stage. It is thinking that brings you to the process of inference. So there are people who will not sit with just the information. They will now think about the information and begin to draw inferences, second layer of information that is hidden under the sensory layer of information. This, when they start doing, they start showing it reveals a sense, a cycle of causation. Inference will bring us to causation. Causation means cause and effect cycle. Means if I've gone to a new place completely and it's a barren land and I am living there, and then one day there is a passerby who comes and he throws a seed, and then it rains, and then that seed becomes, in time I see, oh, it's become a sapling in the same place where the seed fell. Now, suddenly I realized that there is a connection between the seed and the tree. Now, when the tree is fully formed, then I see there is something that drops from there, and then there is another sapling that emerges, and I start seeing a causation cycle. So how my sensory interaction starts bringing me deeper layers of knowledge. And this revealing causation, I have to then test the inferences that I have drawn. This is a normal way in which it goes. Means I may suddenly make wrong connections. I may make a connection like the seed was dropped at a particular point and in a particular moment on a particular day, and you can add whatever, and then only that seed grows. Now, if I have so many hypotheses going along with it, then I'll have to test them. Will only that seed grow, or does seed grow into a plant? So testing inferences becomes very essential stage to come to definite knowledge. And once the testing is done, conclusion gets drawn of what is knowledge. And the test of correct knowledge is that it is verifiable. And not only verifiable by one or two or a community, it is verifiable universally. Means knowledge can only be that which has a universal application. That universality alone makes it knowledge. It removes it from the realm of subjective interpretations. And this process of Laukika Gyan is what has been the base of all our advancements so far that human beings have seen in their pattern on life living externally. This is one method. Now, in this, if you come to the Alaukika Gyan, I said it is also knowledge. What happens in Alaukika Gyan is that the first and foremost thing, this is the knowledge that the Veda gives. First and foremost thing is that the senses are non-operational there. Means you cannot get sense data. There is a verse in the Kena Upanishad, the exact quote unquote, I will not say the Sanskrit word, I'll give you the meaning of it. He says, if you see the truth, those who see the truth, they actually don't see. Those who do not see the truth, they see. Those who think they see, they don't see. What this verse really means is that if you will ever objectify the truth, that means it is still not the truth. So the first and foremost thing is your senses means you will not be able to see the truth, you will not smell the truth, you will not hear the truth, you will not hear, you can hear about the truth is the only sense possible. We'll come to that. But fundamental point is that your senses cannot reveal the truth by themselves. It's not an object. Then what is it? Well, just as senses are inoperative to know your thoughts. If I ask you, how do you know your thoughts? Senses don't tell you. Your eyes don't tell you your thoughts. Your ears don't tell you your thoughts. Your nose doesn't tell you your thought. Your tongue doesn't tell you your thought. Your touch doesn't tell you your thought. But you know that you have a thought. How did that observation happen? With what did the observation happen? So here in the Laukika Gyan, you employ the senses to help you observe. But in the Alaukika Gyan, there is an inner observation which is devoid of the sense information, which doesn't have any participation of the senses, which means now the observation is only of the inside material. What is inside? Inside is also another just a word. As you advance in knowledge, you will realize so many things open up. At this stage, take it as inside and outside. What is that inside which observes? What do you observe? I'll give you an example. I observed that I was born with a tiny form, a form that had no self-cognition. I was told that I am born on such and such a day. I don't know. I was born on that day. I am told and I have faith and I will celebrate my birthday accordingly. I know I was a small, tiny creature, helpless, completely helpless, like any animal. And yet, today, I cannot say I am tiny. That inner observation of seeing the change that has happened, though it has happened to the body which is external, but I am seeing that change within me. My senses are showing me the change of the body, okay, but I am seeing a change. I'm observing a change. If this example is not perfectly driving home, take another example. I observe that I sleep, and when I sleep, there is nothing there. Now that nothing state has a presence which I am able to cognize, but not there when I wake up. ये क्या रहस्य है? Can we not think about this sometimes? Because here I am going through it every day, twice a day, sometimes for all of us who are fond of our afternoon naps. More than twice sometimes. When we have this cyclical habit, we have this cyclical nature of going off to sleep, how is it that sleep hasn't come under my observation? What brings the sleep? What breaks its continuity? And if it breaks its continuity, did I disappear? Did I vanish away? When I was there already, and then I see that it has there are some dreams I see, and then the dreams have a discontinuity, and I'm born, and I'm woken up, and I wake up, and now it's all real. But what about those two things? Were they not my experience? So what does inner observation is, if I reduce it to one sentence? Inner observation is observation of your inner experience, which you already have. What does this observation gives you? Laukika Gyan observation. It gives you the observation of the potential experience. Of course, some experience is coming to you, but you will generate more experiences out of it. But here in the Alaukika Gyan, you are observing the experience that is already there. Because of which what happens, like these two examples I gave you, you start to gather inner data. And when you start gathering inner data, you realize that there is some common things that you see that you undergo in a cyclical way again, and yet there are a lot of missing gaps. I don't know what happens. I don't know why I wake up. I don't know why I get dreams. Are dreams really real? A lot of people ask us this question. We will not touch upon it. It's not really a subject of inquiry. Dream I go through is the subject of inquiry. That I dream is the subject of inquiry. What I dream is immaterial. It replaces every day anyway. How does it matter? Every day I have new dreams. That dreaming is a process I go through. As I keep gaining information, Ved is doing all this for us, and it draws inferences from it for us. I may stop there as an individual because we cannot think beyond this. We only see a lifespan. But Ved is knowledge which has drawn inferences of this experience, and it reveals a very subtle layer of causation. This causation of the Laukik Gyan is something evident. I can verify it outside in the world. But what this reveals as a subtle causation is entirely what is going to happen within me. One example of it is my bundle of what I call myself as Sukham and Dukham. That there is a causation between this is going to be revealed by the Ved. How does this happen? And then it also has testing inferences. Means the knowledge it gives me, if I cannot verify it in my experience, it cannot be knowledge. I can discard it. I don't have to follow it. Ved does not make dogmas. It gives you the knowledge. leaves you with enough material that if you are an observing person, thinking person, you will see the rational behind it. And once you see the rational behind it, these inferences start making knowledge to you. And what gets revealed in the process is the causeless source. What is revealed here is the object of the world. I can go on revealing planets after planets by knowledge of inferences. I can reveal galaxies. I can reveal life on another planet. This can all happen because of Laukik Gyan. But that, the conscious being and its nature, will it ever get revealed by sensory engagement? No. And that is the topic of Ved. Once it reveals the causeless source, I'm not giving it a name at this point. I want you to evolve with the information. Once it reveals with the causeless source, you will realize the conclusion is drawn. And the test of the conclusion is it has to be verifiable to me and it has to be universal conclusion. It cannot be subjective. So you see there are two differences majorly here, and that changed the entire direction in which Ved operates as knowledge. In the Laukik Gyan, I'm just repeating, in the Laukik Gyan, senses are the primary tool. In Alaukik Gyan, senses are non-operational except in the initial stages of hearing. And then rest almost being the same except causation at a different level, it reveals Vedas. And most importantly, if one processes life is lived along the model that Ved showed, however hard it seems, however difficult it is, it brings maturity in a person that sometime in their journey of life, the causeless source will get revealed. And there is also a secondary means of knowledge. Means this was something that I discover myself. For example, Newton, okay, let me start one step before. Everybody saw apple falling, but was seeing observation? There is a difference between seeing and observation. Newton observed. When he observed, came the law of gravity. But to all of us, we are seeing all the time and the law of gravity doesn't come to us. But thanks to Newton, now I have a quicker process of learning. I don't have to go through the whole process myself. I can learn from someone who already knows. That is my secondary means of acquiring knowledge. Ved is primary, talking to person who is himself a thinker. Newton also employed the same. He was observing. But to average person, we are not such observant. When we are not observant, we miss out on a lot of knowledge in our life. But we have the second chance. Second chance is we learn faster, quicker, when we learn from someone who already knows it correctly. This is a quicker process. But in this quicker process of learning, there is a catch. There is also a huge, pitfall. There is a huge pitfall. What is the pitfall? That the person who shares the knowledge, is the knowledge being shared objectively presented? Is the person giving objective knowledge? Is the facts being shared which helped them form their conclusions so that I can also verify it? Are the examples that are given relatable to me? If this is all very subjective. If this is yes, 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 then the knowledge is something I can adopt. It will be my knowledge. I don't have to go through the lengthy process. But after it being also correct, it has to get integrated in already existing mental data. If it doesn't get integrated in my existing mental data, I will never come to the process of I know. When I say I know, means all my existing knowledge of what I held so far, plus what I have learned new, have now got integrated. They've got integrated. Means all my doubts are gone, because every time I learn something new, it is churning with my existing knowledge. That churning process is bound to bring some doubts and clarifications. If that process has gone through and I have successfully integrated, now I can as much say I know. The same thing is here in the Vedic knowledge. When you learn from someone who knows, means Vedas have brought in the parampara. Today when I did the first invocation, it said, to the parampara my salutations. Means this process of understanding knowledge in a systematic way that it should remain knowledge helps me get it quicker. This knowledge is objective when it is as is, presented, as the Vedas have in themselves a beautiful capsuled way where distortions are minimized. It is objective. It gives reasons. It gives logic. And this logic are twofold. This is something new. They are twofold. One, logic, they will give something that I can verify at the sensory level. Means it is not going to disconnect me from life here. It will give me reasons which I can verify from life, laukika reasons. And it will also give me shastric reasons. Shastra will give us certain logic that is absolutely irrefutable by ordinary thinking. And it gives us examples. But again, like here, but all this information will have to be integrated by you in your mental data. And the process of integrating it, mananam and nididhyasanam. Mananam and nididhyasanam are internal mental processes. Mananam means reflecting, churning, seeing the truth of it till it, the process of integrating that knowledge. So this is Shravanam. Shravanam means I learn from someone who knows. They try and present it as clearly, as objectively, as reasonably, without distortions, with examples. When all this is given, this is Shravanam, my external hearing, the only thing that can help me know, my ear, can hear it. Once it's heard and it's got mixed up with my data existing already, now I have to sit and sort the data. That sorting of the data is mananam and nididhyasanam. And those few, very few go through the whole process. If this becomes successful in a person's life, you are is revealed. There is a difference between you know and you are. As you grow, you will realize this difference is a big difference. Then comes, there's still another process. A pitfall again. As I said, people may not be objective. They may not give reasons entirely, fully. They may not disclose it. If sharing is not objective, then there is a huge, the knowledge will not be complete, let's put it this way. If someone is presenting not objectively, but a subjective vision including only data which suits their narrative, then this can change the very conclusion. And that conclusion will cease to be universal. And you will not be able to recognize it. It will be as good as no knowledge to you. It will probably just remain faith, if you take it. Or worse, a lot more will happen. Sometimes there are people who will intentionally distort facts. An intentional distortion of facts becomes manipulation. And unintentional distortion becomes a bias. This is where humankind finds great difficulty in the process of education. Even Laukika Gyan is difficult to process because there are pitfalls. Now, because of this, when you see even in a Laukik Gyan this is possible, in an Alaukik Gyan which is actually entirely internal based, these have greater probabilities That means the one who shares the knowledge may or may not be very objective, may be giving a subjective that suits their narrative, could be a distortion of facts becoming manipulation, and it can be a bias which makes them present this. And this you have to see the difference. How religions become biased and cults get established. Ved, in its actual methodology of giving knowledge, is preventing people from falling into this category. It will not allow because it's a full reason-based, knowledge-based. So only when this becomes subjective giving, personality giving, when it becomes a personality adherence, then you will find religions and cults, and in the name of truth, a lot of untruth flourishes. But Vedic knowledge prevents this in its real sense. It is not religion, is what I wanted to draw the attention to. Moving on from here, what is Ved then a valid knowledge for? ऐसा क्या वो ज्ञान दे रहा है जो मुझे सेंसेस से नहीं मिलेगा और फिर भी वो ज्ञान की कैटेगरी में है? ज्ञान की कैटेगरी मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी अब समझा दी है, किसको ज्ञान कहते हैं. दैट ज्ञान जो वैलिड है, जो कंक्लूजन यूनिवर्सल तक पहुंच चुका है, दैट नॉलेज, दैट इज कॉल्ड नॉलेज, एंड द इंस्ट्रूमेंट विच हेल्प्ड यू गेट इट इज कॉल्ड प्रमाण. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आंख प्रमाण है किसके लिए? किस ज्ञान के लिए? कलर एंड फॉर्म के ज्ञान के लिए. रंग और रूप का ज्ञान सिर्फ आंख देती है. आंख अगर नहीं है तो रंग और रूप का ज्ञान नहीं है, तो आंख बिकम्स नेसेसरी. प्रमाण है ये. इट बिकम्स अ वैलिड टूल फॉर नॉलेज. वेद भी प्रमाण है. इट इज अ वैलिड टूल फॉर नॉलेज. क्या ज्ञान देगी वो? सबसे पहला ज्ञान जो देती है, जो आपको सेंसेस से नहीं मिल सकता, धर्म क्या है? धर्म का मतलब क्या होता है? it's such a vast word that it has so many meanings in different contexts. But in the context here, to keep it simple now, dharam is taken as karam. कर्म क्या है? और जहां कर्म है वहां फल होना ही है. तो धर्म इंक्लूड्स कर्म और फल का जो रिलेशन है. ये धर्म और कर्म किस आधार पे करना चाहिए? बिकॉज कर्म तो सब्जेक्टिव है. व्हाट आई शुड डू, यू नीड नॉट डू. व्हाट यू डू, आई कांट डू, एक्सेट्रा. ये जो कर्म का एक आधार था इन द वैदिक व्यू ऑफ लाइफ, that was actually varna ashrama vyavastha. And I will pause here because very badly distorted in recent times this has become. In a way it was, deliberately done to prevent people from remaining educated, to cut the roots off. But varna is very different from jati. जाति अलग चीज है, वर्ण अलग चीज है. और वेदों में कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं था. ये वर्ण और आश्रम का भेद सिर्फ कर्म बताने के लिए था कि तुम्हें क्या कर्म करना चाहिए, क्योंकि कर्म का फल से जुड़ना है. और कौन सा कर्म आप कर सकते हो? आप कर्म वो कर सकते हो जो आपके वर्ण और आश्रम के आधार पर है. This was all the meaning that Ved gave us. There was nobody who was looked down upon. There was nobody who was discriminated in the real sense of Vedic knowledge. All that we understand, even as Indians today, whatever we understand other than this is all incorrect. It is deliberately superimposed, a misleading knowledge. Varna ashram mein bhed nahi tha in the original sense. I'm not talking about the application. That dharam means karam based on your varnashram. Phalam was always, अगर आप ऐसा कर्म करोगे इसके दो ही फल हो सकते हैं. पुण्य या पाप। पुण्य और पाप का जो ज्ञान है ये आपको आपकी ज्योग्राफी बुक, इंग्लिश लिटरेचर बुक, हिंदी साहित्य, संस्कृत साहित्य से भी नहीं मिलेगा। कर्म में हर फल पुण्य या पाप है। कौन सा कर्म जो वर्ण आश्रम पे किया है, इसका एक अपनी ही एक समझ थी. It is disconnected in today's life, so everyone will have a lot of difficulty through this. It's acceptable. But here we are talking Ved. सिर्फ वेद ही ये ज्ञान देती है. आपको ये ज्ञान कहीं और नहीं मिलेगा, किसी और रिलीजन में भी नहीं मिलेगा, और वेद रिलीजन नहीं है. I will keep repeating through all the classes. Excuse me. पुण्य और पाप फल है. ये फल जो मिलता है ये आपका जन्मांतर प्राप्ति करता है. मीन्स जब ये देह गिरता है तब आपका एक और जन्म होता है. वो किस आधार पे जन्म होता है? वो आपके पुण्य पाप एक्यूमुलेटेड के आधार पे होता है. देयरफॉर अगर पुण्य पाप कॉन्सेप्ट है तो जन्मांतर तो होना ही होना है, बिकॉज सब फल एक ही जन्म में एग्जॉस्ट नहीं होते. अलग अलग वक्त, अलग अलग बीज, अलग अलग सीजन में उगते हैं ना. तो हर कर्म हमारा किया हुआ एक ही साथ मैनिफेस्ट हो जाए नहीं होता है. सो इफ देयर इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ पुण्य पाप, idea of punya pap, knowledge of punya pap, then automatic knowledge must percolate into saying the inference will be there, the hypothesis starts, and that is there must be janmantara prapti, there must be rebirth. If there is a rebirth, then there will be also lokantara prapti. The postulation will emerge कि अलग अलग लोक भी होंगे, क्योंकि कर्म क्या निर्धारित ही होगा किसका जन्म कहाँ हो रहा है, किस जन्म में, कैसी व्यवस्था में, कहाँ पे. सो लोक अंतर मीन्स डिफरेंट लोकास. These different lokas will also have a possibility, and these different lokas and possibilities, this two, dharma, varna, ashrama, vyavastha, I was to add, didn't get the time. This that I am showing here refers to the individual life, jiva. Jiva Yatra. This Jiva is this lifetime, knowledge of it. From Punyam to Lokantara Prapti, this is Gati, Jiva Gati. Gyan of Jiva Yatra completes from this life to Gati of the Jiva, individual. Jeev means individual. Jeev generally means anything जो जीवित है उसको जीव कहेंगे. But here in the context of Vedanta, I will very often be using the word jeev, and sometimes it is jeev atma, referring to the individual person. This refers to the individual person. Dharma, varnashrama, vyavastha in this life. Based on this will be the gati that this person takes after dropping the body. And for what does he take? Finally, for moksha. This is the Vedic postulation. Ved का ज्ञान है ये. Postulation is a wrong word only to convey the meaning. Ved ज्ञान देता है that your optimal usage of life is moksha. So this knowledge you will not get anywhere else. Only Ved gives you the knowledge of moksha. And knowledge gives you knowledge. Ved gives you the knowledge of avatara rahasya. Avatara Rahasya means all the Vedic gods, etc. And how there is avatarit hona unka, means there is a possibility of them emerging as a form, life form, to resurrect or to destroy elements or whatever. This is this is relating to Ishvara, Deva, Sharira. Avatara is Deva topic. This is Jiva topic, Jiva Gati and Jiva conclusion. Ved is a praman for these topics. Means how I said I'll show you the similarity and the dissimilarity. So what is Ved really talking about is all of this. So Karam Kand starts preparing a person from Dharma up to the point of Lokantara. All this is a topic of Karam Kand. Vedanta only talks of moksha. It doesn't talk of karmas. It will only talk of moksha. Karmas it talks of only in a different context. We will talk of it when we reach. And avatar is only to connect, break the divisions in oneself of plurality. We'll talk again at another point. Now, coming back to our Prakarna Grantha. We still have a few minutes. What was Vedanta? We did this last time. Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, these three form the entire Prasthana Trayi, which is the full Jnana course, Atma Vidya ka full course. 10 principal Upanishads are there in this, though there are many Upanishads, but because Adi Shankara has commented on it, therefore they become relevant. Bhagavad Gita is the Smriti Grantha, Upanishad is the Shruti Grantha, and Brahma Sutra is the Sutra Grantha. These have formed, means a student has Shravanam of all this, then his material is collected together for him to now sit for Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Then he concludes the knowledge as his own. Other than that, we said our Prakarna Granthas, I said introductory texts, and Tattva Bodha is one of those introductory texts. Now, what really qualifies a Prakarna Grantha? Kya kisi bhi text ko, because I said Brahma Sutra is Paurushaya based, Upanishads is Apaurushaya, Brahma Sutra is Sutra, Upanishad is Shruti, Apaurushaya, authorless, Bhagavad Gita is Smriti, author based, Prakarna Grantha completely author based. Someone has written them. Why have they written that? What is the purpose? What is called a Prakarna Grantha? Means मैं कुछ भी लिख दूं, will it get qualified as a Prakarna Grantha of Vedanta? मतलब Vedanta के नाम पे मैं कुछ भी लिख दूं. And I say this is a Vedanta because it's covering words of Vedanta. Does that become a Prakarna Grantha? No. There is a qualification for it to be called as an introductory text to this methodology of learning. What is a Prakarna Grantha? Prakarna Grantha is something which will talk, there are many types of Prakarna Granthas. One type is, it takes the whole topic of Vedanta entirely and it gives a brief presentation of it. Talks of the entire topic in a brief manner. Gives a summary of all the topics. Example of this kind of a Prakarna Grantha is Tattva Bodha itself. And more elaboration of Tattva Bodha is Viveka Chudamani, another text. These are Prakarna Granthas of this nature. Then there is actually, when you go through the study, you realize there is a very methodology of unfolding the truth. प्रक्रिया कहते हैं इसको. Various प्रक्रियाज are there. प्रक्रियाज means एक तरीका है presentation of information का, so that सुनने वाले को एक digested knowledge मिले जो clear रहे. वो प्रक्रिया certain examples के through भी है कभी. One of the methodology sometimes gets picked up by some acharya, some teacher, some person, and he explains that further in a book. Example of this kind of a Prakarna Grantha is Drik Drishya Viveka. Drik is seen, seeing, the who sees, देखने वाला. Drishya is क्या देखा उसने. Vivek is separating दिखा और देखने वाले को. उसका जो बोध कराना, उसका एक समझ आना, उसका एक विवेक बुद्धि. How to separate the seer from the seen. That topic is Drik Drishya Viveka, is a book which uses this methodology. Then there can be many such which touch upon this. And another book is Panchikarnam. Panchikarnam, Tattva Bodha will also talk about, but an acharya has separately written a book where he is only talking about cosmology. He's explaining one topic in details. So the benefit is that when you get one topic in detail, you can now identify the rest in the rest of the material. So many teachers have put in a lot of effort. This has a whole process in itself. I will not elaborate on it more. Then there is a very technical thing called Anubandha Chatushtayam. One of the Anubandha Chatushtayams are exclusively dealt with in a Prakarna Grantha. Example of such a Prakarna Grantha is Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam of Shankara deals with one of the Anubandha Chatushtayam, which I will just talk about and what it does in the following portion. What is important here is that whatever is the principle adopted in Anubandha Chatushtayam of Prakarna Grantha, it does not vary with the Shruti Grantha. The principle is that Prakarna Grantha will follow the same Anubandha Chatushtayam that Shruti remember Upanishads, basic Vedas. उनमें जो follow किया है method, Prakarna Granth भी वही follow करेगा. So what is Anubandha Chatushtayam? And I will just Anubandha Chatushtayam means Chatushtayam is 4. Anubandha means connecting. The 4 things that connect a text, a topic. Connections are of various kinds. One of them is Adhikari. A topic will talk to you who is eligible for this. What are the eligibility criteria? You know, when you apply for any studies in the world, Laukik Gyan, you have to have certain criteria. So if I'm applying for IAS or if I'm applying for medicine, then I cannot be a commerce student. I need to be a science student. मतलब eligibility है, हर knowledge की अपनी eligibility होती है, yardstick होता है, एक तैयारी चाहिए अंदर से for you to take to the knowledge easily. So Adhikari is one of the Anubandha Chatushtayam. Second is Vishaya, topic. What is the topic that is going to be talked about? Third will be Prayojan. What is the purpose of the study? Why should a student go through the whole thing? Because Vedanta, as we said, if you go through the Prasthanatrayi, if medicine takes 5 years for just an MBBS qualification, and then this person has to have specialization, and in today's world, super specialization, it's an average of 15 years we're talking. Prasthanatrayi also, if you go in a logical manner without any break, no holidays, every day, it's a minimum of 12 to 15 years. Now, why will a person invest so much time in it? Unless until I know what is the prayojan of it. क्या मिलेगा मुझे? एक तो वैसे भी कुछ दिखने नहीं वाला यहाँ पे. इसका दुनिया में क्या फायदा है? Because all other educations, I have left that point out, all other education of the world will at least give me skills I can earn for myself. One of the purposes of that education is to make us skillful, give us some skills. What is the prayojan of this? It is not going to give me any skills to live life back better or no. What will be the prayojan that I must know, I will get, so that I am ready to embark upon it. And then Sambandha means ये विषय का, what is the topic got to do with the eligibility? What is the topic got to do with the purpose? What are the various topics connected with each other, etc., etc. This is Anubandha Chatushtayam. I said just in the previous slide, the Prakarna Grantha must have this Anubandha Chatushtayam the same as the Shruti Grantha, Upanishads would have. Only then does that independent author-based text fall into the category of it being a Praman. Otherwise, not every Vedanta writer is going to be qualifying itself to be a Vedantic text which should be authority, whose conclusion will be the same. Remember the errors of false knowledge. Now, if you see in Prakarna Grantha of Tattva Bodha, last time we did the topics. Very beautifully you will see that all these topics fall into the same Prakarna, Anubandha Chatushtayam. The first topic was eligibility. Tattva Bodha will start with few verses on what explanation of what is called eligibility. Eligibility means who's eligible. inner qualities. Here the eligibility is not going to be external, will not be age, will not be varna, will not be ashrama. This is knowledge. Eligibility in Gyan is not varnashrama based. Gyan is free of all of that. But you need inner qualities for this. What are those inner qualities that will help you easily take to knowledge? That eligibility. And then there were topics that it was going to talk. It is talking to us about, giving us knowledge. What is truth? 3 bodies, 3 states, 5 sheets, and Atman. This is Vishaya. Very topic. Anubandha Chatushtayam mein Vishaya is this that Tattva Bodha will talk of. Then there will be creation. Ishvara and Devtas. Jiva and Ishvara. And Tattvamasi. This is the Sambandha. Means, as an individual, how is creation related to me? I am related. हम दोनों में क्या है common? Yeah, how is it I live in this world? What is the connection between the world and me? I pray to gods. I believe there are forces even if I don't pray. I believe there are cyclical seasons that follow in harmony. There must be some law working. I believe at least that much. What is the connection between that and me? Ishwar or Devta mein? What is the connection? What is the connection between the individual and Ishvara? What are these? And finally, Tattvamasi, the great aphorism, that thou art. You are that representing Brahman, the truth, absolute. I'm not going to touch upon, let the subject unfold the knowledge. Tattvamasi is a beautiful connection, equation of who you see yourself and who you are. Who you know yourself today to be and what Vedas says and knows who you really are. The connection between them. That is Tattvamasi. And then what is the prayojan of all this? Why should I go through all this? Jivana Mukti. Liberation while you are alive. And knowing karma, you utilize karma. You take it to your advantage. And finally, you get freedom from bondage. This bondage is also called samsara. And you get samsara mukti. And samsara mukti means janma, janmantara, prapti, lokantara, prapti. It's a vast cycle. Mukti from all of that. Along with mukti now in this life of all the pinprick sorrows that we complain about or we cry about or we feel deficient of. In this lifetime, we feel as if so much is denied to us. But when we look at our life from a larger perspective, one would realize that life itself is a blessing. So from there, we will move on. I will continue this tomorrow now. Who is the author of Tattva Bodha? Who is the author of Tattva Bodha? We will take up tomorrow at the same time. And let me stop this conversation here. Then we will take up questions if needed. Incidentally, I've forgotten to record this today.